I am an honest man. All my friends know it. At home, I'm timid and submissive, a total henpecked husband and wife-obsessed simp. I listen to my wife in everything. So when my wife cheated on me and said to me indifferently, "Are you done yet? If you've got the guts, go find yourself another woman," I obediently went and found 3 mistresses. Later, those 3 mistresses all pressured me to give them an official status. So, as a devoted wife-obsessed simp, I obediently brought up divorce with Willow. But what I never expected was that Willow said she had fallen in love with me. She absolutely refused to divorce. She cried while washing my underwear and said, "You can bring them home. The 5 of us can live together. But divorce? Absolutely not." So I listened to my wife and didn't divorce her, and I brought all 3 of them home. I'm just an honest man who listens to his wife. What did I do wrong? Chapter 1. In the 7th year of being with Willow, I finally married her and brought her home. Just when I was overjoyed, ready for a cozy life with my wife, children, and a warm bed, Willow cheated on me. She and the best actor Makoto were trending online for their kiss. When I saw the photo, it felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Furious, I ran to confront her. She rolled her eyes and said, "George, what's wrong with you? Fine then, if you've got what it takes. Go find yourself a woman to have some fun with. Just stop bothering me, okay?" I stared at Willow, stunned. What she said was unbelievably shameless. How could I just go out and casually fool around with some random woman? But I'm an honest man, and I've always been soft-hearted and obedient to my wife, so I went to Willow's best friend, Sophia. Chapter 2. Sophia Kim was famously known in elite circles as an untouchable ice queen. Rumor had it she was aloof, ascetic, and completely uninterested in men. When I messaged her, my hands were trembling. I typed and deleted the words over and over again. In the end, I only sent one sentence. "Miss Kim, do you have time to meet?" Willow told me to find a woman to fool around with. After sending it, I tossed my phone far away and scratched at my tingling scalp. Willow's best friend shouldn't count as some random woman, right? I just didn't know whether she would agree. Unexpectedly, my phone buzzed almost immediately. Just one word. Okay. We set the location at an extremely secluded tea house. When I arrived, Sophia was already there. She sat by the window, the afternoon sunlight filtering through carved wooden latticework and falling across her cool, elegant face, making her seem even more distant and restrained. Her slender fingers held a cup of tea. Wisps of steam curled upward, blurring her striking brows and eyes. The air was filled with calm sandalwood incense mixed with the fragrance of tea. I was so nervous I nearly moved in sync with both arms and legs like a robot. I sat down across from her, my throat dry. Not a single word of the speech I had prepared would come out. She lifted her eyes to look at me. Her gaze was as still as water, without a ripple. The jade beads around her wrist gleamed softly. "Did Willow send you?" After pouring me a cup of tea as well, Sophia finally spoke. Her voice was beautiful too, like it had been rinsed in snowmelt. Clear and light. I scratched my neck awkwardly, turned my head aside, and nodded. Silence spread through the scent of tea. Just as I was about to flee in embarrassment, she gently set down her teacup, rested her chin on one hand, and looked at me. "So," she said softly, "when you say fool around, how exactly do you want to play?" Chapter 3. Sophia looked aloof and abstinent on the surface, but in reality she drained me dry. I really couldn't go on anymore. Completely exhausted, I lay flat on the bed, ready to enter that dazed, post-exertion sage mode. However, Sophia turned over and straddled me. Her fingertips traced across my chest as she smiled faintly. "Fine," she said gently. "We'll stop after we finish this box." Hearing her soft voice, I stared blankly toward the bedside table. On the box sitting there, the number 12 was printed clearly. I turned my head to glance at the floor. I had just used 5, which meant I was doomed. There was no way I was surviving today. Chapter 4. I was often so exhausted that my lower back ached and my legs trembled when I walked. Eventually, I truly couldn't take it anymore and secretly went to see an old traditional Chinese doctor. The old doctor felt my pulse. His brows furrowed tighter and tighter, and finally he sighed. "Young man, you need to abstain and rest quietly for a while. Otherwise, it will damage your lifespan." I was shocked. What? Doing it too much will make me die early. I was so frightened that I didn't dare go see Sophia again. But when I didn't go to her, she came to me. She actually showed up at the house I shared with Willow. When the doorbell rang, I was in the study playing video games. I thought Willow had gone out and forgotten her keys, so I opened the door without thinking. When I saw Sophia standing outside, I almost slammed the door in her face. My voice trembled. "Your Highness, I mean, what are you doing here?" I instinctively tried to close the door, but Sophia pressed her hand against it and asked innocently, "Why haven't you come to play with me lately?" "Play? You play that hard? Who would dare come looking for you?" My eyes darted around as I made up an excuse. I've been a little busy lately. Busy. Sophia Kim raised an eyebrow slightly and leaned closer to me. A sweet citrus scent mixed with something subtly seductive drifted from her. She let out a soft hum. So busy you don't even have time to answer your phone. I took half a step back, my heart pounding wildly. The old doctor's warning about damaging my lifespan echoed frantically in my mind. I swallowed and said, Miss Kim, I think what we're doing isn't quite right. Summoning my courage, I tried to reason with her. That day I was impulsive. From now on we should. Should what? She interrupted, the corner of her lips curving slightly, though her tone left no room for doubt. Your wife told you to play, remember? The moment she mentioned Willow, I deflated like a punctured balloon. That's right, I'm an obedient, honest man. It was my wife who told me to do this. How could I disobey her? But I'm really afraid of dying. Just as I didn't know what to do, Willow's puzzled voice came from behind me. Sophia, what are you doing here? Chapter 5. Willow didn't go out. I was so startled my soul nearly left my body. I practically jumped as I turned around, my throat tightening with the guilty panic of someone caught cheating in the act. Sophia, however, remained perfectly composed. She turned slightly to look at Willow coming down the stairs and spoke gently and naturally. I was passing by, so I dropped in to see you. I just chatted with George at the door for a bit. As she said it, her gaze drifted toward me, deliberately or not. My back instantly stiffened. Willow didn't seem to notice anything unusual. As she walked downstairs, she said casually, What's there to talk about with him? He's boring and dull. I get annoyed just listening to him. If this had happened before, her words would definitely have hurt. But right now, all I felt was panic. I was terrified Sophia might say something outrageous. Sophia didn't respond. She only looked at me, and the faintest hint of a smile seemed to curve her lips before disappearing in an instant. Willow changed her shoes and walked over, naturally slipping her arm through mine. She said to Sophia, My sister just came back to the country. Since you're here, why don't we have dinner together tonight? I'll call Alicia and the others. My arm stiffened, and I felt a strange discomfort. Willow rarely acted this intimate with me in front of others. Yet today, Sophia's gaze lingered briefly on Willow's hand hooked around my arm before she looked away and answered softly. Okay. Chapter 6. The dinner was set at an extremely private, reservation-only restaurant. Besides Willow, Sophia, and me, there were also their close friend from the wealthy social circle, heiress Alicia, and Willow's younger sister, Freya. During the meal, I kept feeling 3 different gazes locking onto me from different directions. But every time I looked up, the 4 women across from me were chatting among themselves. No one seemed to be looking at me. Was I just being paranoid? I secretly observed them again. Indeed, no one was looking at me. I must be overthinking it. So I lowered my head and continued eating. When the soup in my bowl ran out and I was about to serve myself another bowl, a steaming bowl of soup was placed in front of me. It was Willow. She was chatting with the others while casually serving me soup at the same time. I was stunned. When had I ever received this kind of treatment at home? What kind of divine blessing was this? I immediately said gratefully, Thank you, honey. My voice wasn't loud. Only Willow, who sat next to me, should have been able to hear it. But the other 3 women at the table also stopped talking and turned to look at me in unison. The way they looked at me, it was as if I had called them honey. And their expressions were strange. There was something in their eyes, like wolves spotting prey. I shrank slightly and lowered my head to keep eating. Willow seemed pleased that I called her that. She became even more attentive, serving me food, pouring me water. Noticing the other 3 glancing at me from time to time, Willow teased them. What's wrong? Jealous of how loving we are as a married couple? Then hurry up and find someone to marry yourselves. Alicia and Freya didn't say anything, but I noticed they seemed to look at me even more frequently. As for Sophia, she let out a faint, wistful smile and said in a lonely tone, I'd love to get married, but the man I like already has a wife. The moment Sophia said that, the entire table was shocked. I nearly fell off my chair. She couldn't possibly be talking about me, right? Willow recovered first. Her beautiful brows furrowed slightly, and she said with mild disdain, You're a grown man and can't even sit properly. After saying that, she looked at Sophia and teased, You really are hopelessly romantic, falling for a married man. But it doesn't matter if his wife disagrees, as long as he agrees. Isn't that enough? Willow nudged Sophia with her elbow encouragingly. I'm telling you, as long as you swing the hoe hard enough, there's no corner you can't dig into. There's no marriage that can't be broken, only a mistress who doesn't try hard enough. At Willow's words, Sophia gave her a meaningful look and nodded. You're right, Willow. Alicia and Freya also nodded thoughtfully in agreement. Then they affectionately pulled Willow closer, praising her outfit and manicure. Willow happily recommended the brands to them and even showed off to me, saying this was the kind of intimacy only girls could understand. I forced a smile and didn't dare speak, because under the table, 3 long legs were brushing against me. Chapter 7. When the meal was almost over, Willow went to the restroom. I let out a sigh of relief and immediately looked down under the table. Under the table, the three women's 6 legs were all perfectly well behaved. A huge question mark formed in my mind. Was I being paranoid again? But that sensation earlier had felt so real, it didn't seem like my imagination. Just as my thoughts were spiraling everywhere, Sophia suddenly picked up a chopstick full of stir-fried chives and placed it into my bowl. "Eat," she said lightly. "I noticed you kept reaching for this earlier." Sophia's single sentence instantly drew Alicia and Freya's attention. Their gazes swept back and forth between me and Sophia. Cold sweat broke out on my back. I thought they had noticed something. Before I could react, Alicia was the first to move. She placed a piece of fish into my bowl and smiled. "You picked at this squirrel-shaped mandarin fish 6 times just now. You must really like it." I stared at her in confusion. Wait, how did she even know how many times I had taken the fish? Before I could process it, Freya set a small plate in front of me. On it was a crab she had meticulously shelled, the meat neatly arranged. "Have mine," she said sweetly. "If it tastes good, I'll peel all the crab for you from now on." She smiled innocently, almost adorably. I was speechless. What the hell was going on? I truly had the sinking feeling that I had just fallen straight into a trap. Chapter 8. It was like the three of them were competing to put food on my plate. I didn't have a single second where my bowl was empty. Later, I really couldn't eat another bite. On top of that, Willow had been in the restroom for a long time, and I was worried she might have fallen into the toilet. So I ran out to look for her. Once I stepped out of the private room, I felt much lighter. I walked down the corridor searching for Willow. When I saw her on the terrace, along with her smudged lipstick, my world collapsed. How intense would a kiss have to be to smear lipstick like that? My voice trembled as I demanded, "Willow, why are you treating me like this? I listen to you in everything, yet you betray me. The better I treat you, the less you appreciate it. I love my wife. I always put her first." I couldn't understand what I had done wrong. Was I still not obedient enough? Seeing how angry I was, Willow instinctively stepped toward me as if to explain, but for some reason, she stopped halfway. The panic on her face shifted into impatience. "It's not what you think. And didn't I tell you not to bother me? If you're bored, go find more people to fool around with." With that, she turned and walked away. I followed behind her humbly. Honey, if I listen to you, will you love me?" "Yes," Willow replied without turning around. She left me standing there, staring blankly at her retreating figure. So it really was because I hadn't been obedient enough that she cheated. As I walked back in a daze, a door beside me suddenly opened. Someone grabbed me and pulled me into a pitch-black storage room. My alarm bells went off. I reached out instinctively and grabbed at the person. The soft touch made me freeze for a moment. The next second, "George, it's me." Alicia's voice came from the darkness. "When you can't see, your hearing sharpens." Recognizing her voice, I hurriedly let go. Her tone was soft and alluring, sending a tingling sensation through my ears. I couldn't help recalling Willow's words. She had told me to find more people to play with. I'm an honest man. I listened to my wife. So with a trace of helplessness, I asked Alicia, "Can you play with me?" Her voice trembled. "Do you even know what you're saying?" "Yes." I took a breath. When she didn't respond immediately, I started to retreat. "It's okay if you don't want to. I'll go find. I'm willing." Before I could finish, Alicia kissed me. The kiss was fierce and wild. I gradually deepened it in return. But just as things were about to go further, I stopped. "This is bad." Alicia's body was burning hot. Her voice sounded thick and breathy. "What's wrong?" I nearly burst into tears. "I didn't bring protection." She let out a soft laugh and leaned closer. "But stopping like this must be uncomfortable for you, right?" Of course it was. The arrow was already on the string. How could anyone endure stopping now? The next second, she knelt down. My breath hitched. And in that dizzying moment, a song seemed to echo in my ears. "Love is like a hungry wolf. Its mouth deceptively sweet, if you draw near just to play. Its fangs will soon reveal." She dims the evening light. Shadows veil her shoulders. Sparks intertwine and flare. Desire thick in the air. A heart once cut and scarred cannot endure more change. Yet with her fingertips, she draws electric currents. Heat begins to rise. Beauty blurs the mind. A gentleman rushing into flame cannot blow away the warm smoke. And then her lips join in, testing my restraint. Chapter 9. Half an hour later, Alicia and I walked out of the storage room in a daze. I lowered my voice and said to her, "Here, wipe your mouth and hands." Just as Alicia was about to take the tissue I handed her, a gloomy voice suddenly sounded not far away. "What are you two doing?" I instinctively looked toward the voice and saw Freya. She stood at the end of the corridor with one hand on her hip. Her expression dark and unreadable. Those eyes, somewhat similar to Willow's, were fixed tightly on Alicia and me, especially on the glasses clipped at Alicia's collar and her tied-up hair. My heart leapt straight into my throat. And nothing, I stammered. I quickly clenched the tissue in my palm and stuffed it into my pocket. We just happened to run into each other. Alicia, however, was far calmer than I was. She naturally withdrew her hand, brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, casually put on her glasses, and met Freya's scrutinizing gaze. The corners of her lips even curved into a relaxed smile. We were just chatting. What's wrong, Freya? Need something? Freya stepped forward twice. Her gaze swept back and forth between the two of us before settling on my evasive eyes. Nothing, she said. Her lips curved slightly, but the smile held no warmth. Brother-in-law, it's late. Drive me home, I replied. Sure, let's head back. Without thinking much, I was about to leave with Freya when Alicia grabbed my arm a step ahead of me. She let out a soft laugh and looked at Freya. Freya, your house is so close and you still need someone to drive you. It's less than a 5-minute walk. Unlike me, I live far away and didn't bring a car. Maybe it was just my imagination, but after those words, the air between Freya and Alicia seemed to grow tense, like drawn swords. Freya's thin lips parted slightly. Her gaze turned icy as she looked at Alicia. So what? You can take a taxi. Alicia smiled lightly. Did you forget? George and I live in the same neighborhood. It's on the way. She leaned close to Freya's ear and let out a faint scoff. Kid, want to compete with me? Grow up first. With that, Alicia ignored Freya's reaction entirely and pulled me away. I turned back to glance at Freya. She stood there without following. The look in her eyes as she watched me was so complicated I couldn't understand it. Resentment, unwillingness, even a trace of grievance. Chapter 10. On the way back, Alicia didn't say a word. She leaned against the window, quietly staring outside the entire time. The only time she spoke was midway, asking me to pull over so she could buy something. I was distracted and didn't pay much attention. After entering the parking garage and stopping the car, just as I was about to unfasten my seatbelt, Alicia grabbed my hand. A small box suddenly appeared in her palm. She looked at me and asked, "Want to continue what we didn't finish earlier?" This time, the song Hungry Wolf legend seemed to loop for 4 straight hours. When everything finally calmed down, Alicia adjusted her skirt, slung her handbag over her shoulder, and stepped out of the car first. Just then, we heard another car pulling in. It was Willow. She had clearly been drinking at a gathering. After the driver parked, he opened the door for her from the other side, and Willow stumbled out unsteadily. Alicia. Willow squinted, trying to focus. Why are you in George's car? Alicia answered naturally. Brother-in-law gave me a ride since it was on the way. When she saw me step out, she turned to me and added, "Thanks, brother-in-law." Willow nodded dizzily at that, not even noticing that 5 hours had passed since dinner. She snorted lightly. Why are you being polite with him? He's a grown man. This is what he should be doing. As I got out of the car and heard that, my gaze drifted awkwardly. I felt too guilty to look at anyone directly. I cleared my throat. It was nothing. Alicia couldn't help laughing. Her laugh was light and casual, as if the one who had lost control in the car earlier hadn't been her at all. All right, you head back first, Willow said. My husband and I are going home too. She leaned against me, and after I steadied her, she added to Alicia, "We'll hang out again another day." With that, Willow hooked her arm through mine and staggered into the villa. I didn't even get the chance to glance back at Alicia before the door closed behind us. Chapter 11. It took quite a bit of effort to carry Willow back to the bedroom and lay her on the bed. She must have been truly drunk. The moment she lay down, she almost fell asleep, mumbling vaguely, "Hubby, I really love you." Hearing Willow's words, I was so moved that my eyes filled with tears. Just as I thought, if I listen to my wife, she loves me more. Silently, I made up my mind. From now on, I will listen to my wife even more. That way, she'll love me even more. Chapter 12. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was empty. Willow was already gone. I instinctively grabbed my phone to check the time, 7 a.m. That's when I noticed Sophia had sent me a lot of messages the night before. Sophia said, "Where did you go? Did you leave with Alicia? Was I not satisfying you? If something wasn't good enough, you can tell me. Just don't stop playing with me, okay?" There were dozens of messages. The further I scrolled, the harder they were to look at. I didn't dare reply. After exiting Sophia's chat, I saw that Alicia had also messaged me. She told me to drink more goji berry tea to replenish my energy. After washing up, I went downstairs in nothing but a pair of loose shorts. Still half asleep, I stopped abruptly when I reached the bottom of the stairs and looked toward the living room. Freya was sitting on the sofa, holding a cup of coffee, leisurely watching TV. She greeted me naturally, as if she already belonged in this house. "Freya, why are you here?" I asked in surprise. She gave me a sweet, obedient smile. "I just came back to the country. I was scared living alone. So when my sister found out, she told me to move in and stay here." Move in? I stammered, completely stunned. "Yes." Before I could process it, Freya set down her coffee cup and stood up, walking toward me. 18-year-old Freya was wearing a white dress, looking pure and clean. She stopped in front of me and tilted her head slightly to look up at me. There was a pitiful look in her eyes. "Brother-in-law, don't you welcome me?" I didn't know what to say. Maybe it was my imagination, but the way she looked at me felt a little off. So the idea of her moving in felt strange to me. Just as I was at a loss, Freya spoke again, her expression filled with loneliness. "If brother-in-law doesn't welcome me, I'll just go back to the old house and live alone. Ever since my parents divorced and I was sent overseas, I've been used to being alone anyway." As she finished speaking, her peach blossom eyes turned red, her voice choked slightly. "Brother-in-law, I'm sorry for causing trouble. It's my fault. I just long for family too much." Seeing Freya like this, so fragile and broken, my doubts and awkwardness were instantly drowned in overwhelming guilt and sympathy. What bad intentions could she possibly have? She was just a little girl who wanted to live with her family. I quickly grabbed her suitcase, which she was about to pull away. "Don't go. Stay here. My home is your home." "Thank you, brother-in-law." Freya immediately broke into a bright smile. Her eyes sparkled, and the trace of grievance vanished in an instant. "Brother-in-law, you're so kind." Just as we were talking, Willow hurried back inside. "What's wrong?" I asked. Willow looked anxious. As she rushed toward the bedroom, she said, "Aunt Zhang, who practically raised me, got into a car accident overseas and is hospitalized. I need to leave immediately." 2 minutes later, Willow came downstairs with her passport and documents. "Sis," Freya called out. Only then did Willow notice her, but she didn't have time to react much. She greeted her briefly and hurried out. Before leaving, she turned to me and said, "Hubby, take good care of Freya. I'll probably be back in about a month. When I return, I have something to tell you." She spoke while walking quickly out the door. Chapter 13. Just like that, only Freya and I were left at home. I kept Willow's words in mind and took good care of Freya. The first few days were fairly normal. I helped her buy furniture and daily necessities, asked whether she was adjusting well, whether the food suited her taste. Freya would always reply with a sweet, obedient smile. "Thank you, brother-in-law. You're so kind. I'm very used to living with you." But gradually, I realized Freya seemed a little too clingy. When I watched a game, she would naturally sit beside me, very close, saying with a smile, "The sofa's so big, brother-in-law wouldn't mind me sitting close." Right, when I played video games, she would come in to watch, focusing intently on me. If I won, she'd praise my skills. If I lost, she'd complain that my teammates were terrible. Even when I returned to my bedroom at night, she would follow me to the door, lingering and chatting about trivial things, her eyes carrying emotions I couldn't quite understand. This closeness, beyond the normal boundaries between a brother-in-law and sister-in-law, made me uneasy. I began, intentionally or unintentionally, to avoid her, reducing the time we spent alone together. But she seemed to notice my avoidance. One evening after work, I lay on the living room sofa, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone. Freya sat silently on the other end of the couch, not leaning close like usual. An awkward silence filled the air. After a long while, she suddenly spoke in a low voice, tinged with faint grievance and self-mockery. "Brother-in-law, do you also think I'm unnecessary, annoying?" I froze and quickly denied it. "Of course not, Freya. Don't think like that. I know," she said softly, lowering her head. "After my parents divorced, I was sent overseas, like a ball being kicked around. My sister was busy with her studies and didn't have time for me. Now that I'm back and insisting on living here, I really am causing trouble for you and my sister." She looked up at me, her eyes slightly red, like an abandoned kitten. "I just really wanted a home. All those years abroad, alone in that empty house, I was so scared. Now that I'm finally back, and I see how kind you are to me, I couldn't help wanting to get a little closer. I'm sorry. I crossed boundaries and made you uncomfortable." Her words stirred deep pity in me. So that was what hid behind her clingy behavior, such deep insecurity and longing for family. I felt ashamed of my earlier suspicions. What fault did she have? She was just a child deprived of affection, longing for warmth. Willow had told me to take good care of her. How could I distance myself because of my own doubts? I immediately moved a little closer and softened my voice. "Freya, don't say that. My home is your home. I'm your brother-in-law. It's only right that I take care of you. You're not a burden at all. Do whatever you want. Don't feel restrained." Freya's eyes brightened for a moment, then dimmed again. She hesitated, looking at me, her voice even softer. "Brother-in-law, actually, that day at the restaurant, I heard my sister tell you to find other people to play with." Hearing that, I went numb. Before I could explain, her eyes reddened further, tears nearly falling. She asked pitifully, "Why do you play with them but not with me? Is it because I'm the unwanted child no one wanted since I was little? Do you dislike me?" "So, not at all. Absolutely not. I cut her off urgently. The inferiority and grievance in her words made my heart race in panic. I blurted out without thinking. "You're wonderful, very, very wonderful. We can play right now." The moment the words left my mouth, I froze. Realizing what I had just said, my entire body went stiff, and then, everything spiraled out of control. Chapter 14. For the next half-month, Freya kept me so busy that I didn't have a single moment of free time, until I stayed up several nights rushing a project and ended up with acute gastric ulcers. During the few days I rested at home, Freya took care of my meals and daily needs entirely. When the doorbell rang, I was lying on the sofa clutching my stomach. Hearing it, Freya handed me warm water and my medicine before getting up to answer the door. The moment she saw Sophia and Alicia outside, she immediately tried to shut the door, but she couldn't outmatch the strength of two people. A few minutes later, I stared at the three women bustling around me and felt my head swelling with stress. Sophia, apparently having heard from someone that massage could relieve gastric ulcers, had actually brought a whole line of beautiful massage therapists for me to choose from. "If this batch isn't good enough, we'll switch to another," she said calmly. "Go ahead and pick." Alicia let out a cold snort and opened all the boxes she had brought. Inside were all kinds of premium supplements, several of which I had never even seen before. "Are you stupid?" she scoffed. "What's massage going to do for a gastric ulcer? He needs nourishment." As she spoke, she opened a bottle of supplements and was about to feed me directly. Sophia didn't even lift her eyelids. She picked up an egg and declared she was going to roll it over my stomach. "Unlike Miss Alicia over there," she said lazily, "who shows up feeding goji berries and ginseng soup at a time like this. Why don't you stop him from eating Viagra like it's candy?" Chapter 15. The tension between Sophia and Alicia ignited instantly. Freya, left standing to the side, watched the two women who had barged into the house. Her expression darkened. She suddenly turned and went into the kitchen. A moment later, she returned with a bowl of millet and pumpkin porridge. "Brother-in-law, eat this. Mine is hot." She squeezed between Sophia and Alicia, her gaze openly provocative as she looked at them. "There's everything we need at home. No need for outsiders to trouble themselves." "Outsiders?" Alicia let out a scoffing laugh, crossing her arms as she looked at Freya. "Kid, are you even an adult yet? Trying to take care of someone?" Sophia spoke lightly, her fingers rolling the jade beads around her wrist. "Freya, come to think of it, your sister and I are best friends, so you should call me sister too. George is your brother-in-law, so how am I an outsider?" I was speechless. What kind of twisted logic was that? Freya refused to back down. "My sister isn't home. Taking care of brother-in-law is my responsibility. You two showing up uninvited like this, isn't that inappropriate?" The three of them formed a triangle in the living room, their gazes clashing like lightning. I stood trapped in the middle, my stomach aching and my scalp tingling from the situation. Could it be they all knew about my relationship with each of them? Just then, my phone rang, a video call from Willow. My hand shook, and I almost spilled the porridge. On the screen, the word "wife" was clearly displayed. The three pairs of eyes instantly locked onto my phone. "Are you answering?" Sophia asked calmly. How could I possibly dare to answer? Flustered, I tried to decline the call, but in my panic, I accidentally swiped to accept. Willow's face appeared on the screen. The background looked like a hospital. "Hubby, what are you doing?" She paused mid-sentence, frowning. "Why do you look like that? Why is your face so pale? Are you not feeling well?" My heart pounded wildly. I forced out a smile. "And no, just a bit of stomach pain." Stomach pain, that old problem again. "Did you eat something bad?" At that moment, Sophia suddenly coughed. Willow stopped speaking. After 3 seconds of silence, she asked, "Why do I hear a woman's voice? Who's next to you?" My entire body stiffened. I instinctively looked at Sophia. She looked perfectly calm, not a trace of guilt on her face. If anything, she seemed expectant. I was speechless. She did that on purpose. Seeing Sophia act like that, Alicia instantly caught on and was about to make a sound as well, only for Sophia to clamp a hand over her mouth. But the commotion only made things more suspicious. Willow's gaze sharpened. She stared at my slightly panicked expression. "Hubby, where are you?" Alicia struggled to speak, but Sophia firmly covered her mouth first. Just as my brain felt like it was overheating trying to think of an excuse, Freya suddenly leaned into the camera, blocking everything behind her. She wore a sweet, obedient smile. "Sis, I've had a bit of a cold lately. I just coughed twice." Hearing that, Willow's expression softened slightly, though her brows were still knitted. "Oh, I see. Then take care of yourself. Don't pass it to your brother-in-law. I'll be back in a few days." It seemed like she wanted to say more, but suddenly, a man's laughter sounded from the other side of the screen. "Willow." I recognized that voice instantly. Makoto. They were together right now. The realization struck me like lightning. Why, when I've listened to my wife in everything, does she still treat me like this? On the screen, After hearing that voice, Willow's eyes subconsciously shifted away from me. She seemed to see something. Her expression turned cold in an instant. She didn't even look back at me again. I have something to handle here, hubby. Get some rest. I'll explain when I get back. And then she hung up. Chapter 16. Staring at the ended video call, I was devastated. Sophia was the first to react. George, divorce her and marry me. I'll be a good wife. The next second, she pulled out her household registration booklet from her bag and handed it to me. Seeing how fast Sophia moved, Alicia cursed under her breath. Shameless. Good thing I came prepared. She, too, took out her household registration booklet and handed it over. Sophia looked at me. George, give me an official title. Alicia echoed at the same time. George, give me an official title. After speaking in perfect unison, the two women realized it and shot each other resentful glares. Just as I stood there, torn and not knowing whose words I should listen to, Freya forcefully squeezed between them. The next second, she also pulled out her household registration booklet. Brother, she said softly, I'm not like them. I don't care about titles, and I don't want to make things hard for you. As long as I can stay by your side and you look at me from time to time, I'll be satisfied. Freya looked up at me, her peach blossom eyes filled with obedience and tenderness. The moment Alicia heard that, she panicked and shoved Freya aside. How can you fight like that? That's playing dirty. Then she looked at me with teary eyes. I can't act like some pretentious coquette, but I don't care. You took my body, so you have to take responsibility. That was my first time. Okay, woo-woo. Meanwhile, Sophia, who had just been pushed aside, calmly cut off a strand of her long hair and placed it in my palm. Her eyelashes trembled slightly. You know, I've only ever been with you. Looking at the three women in front of me, my heart softened. In a moment of weakness, I agreed to give all of them an official title. However, when I went to customize 3 pairs of wedding rings, the clerk looked at me in complete confusion. Sir, are you certain you want the one and only design? So when Willow finally returned, I confronted her, with 4 rings on one hand. Chapter 17. I said, let's get a divorce. Willow said, honey, let's have a baby. Willow and I spoke at the same time. After the words fell, both of us froze. Willow's voice trembled. What did you just say? Her face was filled with shock. She even thought she must have misheard. I hesitated for a moment, then raised my left hand, wearing 4 wedding rings. I took off the one on my ring finger and placed it in front of Willow. I said, let's get a divorce. Impossible. Willow didn't even think about it before refusing flatly. Hearing that, I grew a little anxious and tried to persuade her. We should just divorce, then you can be with Makoto. The moment she heard Makoto's name, Willow panicked. She shrieked, there is absolutely nothing between me and him. I already wanted to explain everything to you a month ago, but things were too urgent back then. I was worried I wouldn't be able to make it clear over the phone, so I didn't explain. Willow hurriedly tried to clarify. I frowned deeply. After a few seconds of silence, I brought up the incident where they were caught kissing and it trended online. She said, what are you talking about? He hired someone to secretly take photos and used camera angles to fake it. After that, I had my dad blacklist him. Didn't you notice that the next day the trending topic disappeared, and he never showed up on screen again? That did seem to be the case, I said, but that's not right. Back then you even told me that if I had the guts, I could go find other women to fool around with. She snapped. That was said out of anger. Willow completely lost her composure and stomped her foot. I was trying to explain things to you at the time, but you immediately questioned me and didn't trust me. I got angry, so I said that. I gradually began to feel a little guilty, but I still argued stubbornly. Then what about the second time? Your lipstick was all smudged, and you told me not to bother you and to go out and find more people to have fun with. Hearing that, Willow looked even more devastated. She said, that day Makoto was making one last desperate attempt. He brought paparazzi to hide in the corner and secretly film us. He suddenly lunged at me and forcefully kissed me. When I tried to dodge him, I covered my mouth, and the lipstick rubbed onto my clothes and got smeared. And I told you back then that it wasn't what you thought. When I said, don't bother me, I meant don't talk to me about Makoto. I felt he was bad luck. As for telling you to go find more people to have fun with, I meant you should go play games with your friends, queue up together online. Don't you always call them to hang out when you're stressed? I recalled the expression on Willow's face at the time. It did seem like what she was saying now. So, had I misunderstood her? Then those 3 women, subconsciously, I glanced at my left hand. Willow followed my gaze and looked at it too. She asked in confusion, those 3 big gold rings, how did you? As if she had suddenly realized something. She was just about to speak when I jolted in fright and immediately cut her off. But during the video call, I heard Makoto's voice. You didn't even look at me, you just hung up. Sure enough, Willow's attention was diverted. She immediately explained, my dad had already blacklisted Makoto, but he still managed to find me. That proves someone leaked my itinerary. The only people who knew about my trip abroad were you, my sister, and a few of my close girlfriends. If Makoto showed up there, it means there's a backstabbing so-called best friend among them. That's why my face looked so bad at the time. I swear, from beginning to end, I have had absolutely nothing to do with Makoto. All I was thinking about then was finding out which so-called friend betrayed me. Willow looked at me and said, word by word, I have only ever been intimate with you. After hearing her explanation, I tremblingly raised my left hand and showed the 3 gold rings on it. Stammering, I said, but I took your words seriously. I went out and messed around with 3 women. Now they want me to give them an official status. Hearing that, Willow stared fixedly at the 3 rings on my left hand. The color drained from her face at a visible speed. Her breathing stopped for several seconds, and she staggered back a step. She said, 3. Her breathing grew labored. You went and fooled around with 3 women. Chapter 18. I nodded guiltily and added in a small voice, but honey, don't worry. I didn't just pick random women. The ones I found are all people you know. All people I know. Willow's voice shot up sharply, almost cracking. I nodded honestly. Sophia, Alicia, Anne, Freya. With every name I mentioned, Willow's face turned a shade paler. When she heard Freya's name, she suddenly lifted her head, her gaze sharp enough to kill as she shouted, those shameless vixens, thieves, liars. She was trembling with anger, barely able to speak coherently. Grabbing my sleeve tightly, she demanded. So this past month, her eyes churned with intense pain and jealousy. She continued, you've been playing around with them. My eyes darted away, my heart pounding wildly, but I still forced myself to say, you were the one who told me to. I'm an honest man, I always listen to my wife. Before I could finish, Willow rose onto her tiptoes and kissed me. The kiss was fierce and almost frantic, filled with painful desperation. I froze for a moment, then pulled her into my arms, my heart aching for her. Our lips tangled, and gradually, under the familiar scent and touch, the emotions we had suppressed began to pour out. What followed was a chaotic and intense entanglement. When it was finally over, Willow silently got up and went to the bathroom. I lay on the bed for a while, then felt that I still needed to talk things through with her. I got up, put on my jacket, and went to find her. When I pushed the door open, I saw Willow cold-faced, scrubbing the underwear I had just thrown onto the floor. Although her expression was icy, she washed it carefully, scrubbing it thoroughly clean. I didn't speak, she didn't either. For a while, the only sound in the bathroom was the rush of running water. Do you like them? Willow suddenly asked. I fell silent for a moment and thought back. Then, awkwardly, I nodded. I said, they each have their own strengths. Sophia is exceptionally gifted. Alicia has great service awareness. Freya is young and full of energy. Hearing that, Willow fell silent again. Listening to the sound of the water and watching her quietly wash my underwear, I felt a mix of complicated emotions. After hesitating for a while, I took the initiative to speak. So, when are we going to get divorced? At my words, Willow suddenly turned around. Her eyes were red, like an abandoned pet, aggrieved yet furious. Divorce? George, let me tell you, this lifetime, that's impossible. I stared at her in shock, thinking I had misheard. Even after all this, Willow still wouldn't divorce me. She threw down the underwear, stood up, and looked straight at me. Her tone was almost obsessive, as if she had made some kind of firm decision. You can bring them home. The 5 of us can live together. But divorce? Absolutely not. Why you? What did you say? I was completely stunned, even thinking I had heard wrong. She said. I said, call them here. Willow turned back around and continued scrubbing the underwear, grinding her teeth as she did. Don't they want an official status? Call them now. I'll give them their official status. The last words were squeezed out through clenched teeth. Chapter 19. Under Willow's watchful gaze, I sent messages to Sophia, Alicia, and Freya one by one. In less than half an hour, the 3 women appeared in the living room at top speed. The atmosphere was so heavy it felt like it could drip with tension. Sophia still wore her usual cool and aloof expression, but the fingertips clutching her cup had turned slightly pale. Alicia leaned against the wall, her eyes wary as she watched Willow, whose face was flushed red. Freya kept her head lowered in silence. Willow sat on the main sofa seat and let out a cold laugh. Her gaze swept across their faces like a blade. She said, well done, truly impressive. Her voice was icy enough to shed frost. She gave a cold snort, snatching my husband right in front of me. And you even formed a group for it. You were the ones who leaked my itinerary to Makoto too, weren't you? The whole point was to ruin the relationship between me and my husband. The air went silent for a moment. No one refuted her. Sophia was the first to speak. Her tone was calm but carried unquestionable seriousness. At this point, what's the point of saying all that? Anyway, I'm serious about your husband. Alicia rolled her eyes. Don't forget, you were the one who pushed him away. So don't blame me for overtaking you later. Freya timidly lifted her head, then quickly lowered it again. She said softly, "Sister, I'm sorry, but I really like my brother-in-law." "Shut up, all of you." Willow smashed the cup onto the floor. The sharp crash silenced everyone instantly. She took a deep breath, suppressing her fury with visible effort, assuming the commanding posture of the lawful wife. "Listen." Her gaze swept across the three of them as she bit her lip. "There is no way I'm divorcing George, so give up any fantasy of replacing me. Either you obediently stay as number 2, number 3, and number 4, or get out right now." 5 seconds of silence passed. Freya was the first to speak. "Sister, I'll be number 2. Alicia, afraid of losing her spot, quickly added, "Then I'll be number 3, I'm number 3. Sophia fixed her eyes on Freya, clearly dissatisfied. "By order, I should be number 3. You're number 4. Freya simply tilted her head. "Spots are limited. First come, first served." Sophia was speechless. Chapter 20. Willow kept her word and actually arranged a schedule for the three of them. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays belonged to Freya, Alicia, and Sophia. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays belonged to her. Willow said this was her greatest concession. As for Sunday, Sunday was group activity day. Chapter 21. The house became unusually lively. At the breakfast table, the bowl in front of me was always full. On my left was a peeled egg from Sophia. On my right was ham sliced by Alicia. In the middle was milk poured by Freya. And Willow, with a dark expression, spread jam on my toast, grinding her teeth as she warned the other three. "Watch his sugar intake. Control the sugar. Do you understand?" They seemed to have reached some strange balance, although behind the scenes they were still openly and secretly competing. For example, Sophia would quietly move my favorite dishes closer to me. Alicia could always notice immediately if I was missing something and bring it back right away. Freya, relying on her younger sister status, would confidently massage my shoulders and pound my legs. And Willow, as the lawful wife, possessed the exclusive right to wash my underwear by hand every day. She claimed it was a symbol of sovereignty. The neighbors often saw an astonishing amount of women's clothing hanging on our balcony to dry, and strange arguments could frequently be heard, like debates over who I would accompany to a movie today, or who I would go shopping with tomorrow. The property management once even suspected that our household was holding some kind of illegal gathering. As for me, of course, I listened to them. After all, I'm just an honest man who listens to his wife.